Cool. All right, well, we're here at day 2 of the summit. We've made it. Do we get to the summit by the end of the day?
I don't know.
Is that the plan?
It's a pretty big climb.
Yeah, well, I never really knew how big it was before we started. Seems to be getting bigger the more we travel along. Anyway, we're going to be talking practical thermal hunting today, which is a really exciting topic for me to be interviewing you guys about, because I'm sort of right at the start of my thermal journey, and I'm assuming and I'm hoping you three here are a lot further along, and you're going to be able to sort of dig into the questions that I might have for you, or other people, customers might have for you, and really get down to the nitty gritty of what we need to get started in thermal hunting and shooting. So on the panel with us today, guys, we've got Maxwell here, and we've got Stewart and Trent. Let's go along the line. Around the other way. Yes, so Stewart and Trent. I read them in the line and didn't eyeball you guys. Stu, let's start with you, mate. Let's tell us what you do and your experience with thermal.
Yeah, sure. I work here for Scoped Out, and I deal quite a lot with thermal and night vision. It's been a bit of a hot topic for me coming on board, so it's just something I've delved into quite a bit, and I know every single detail that you could about these sorts of devices. I've used them a little bit out in the field, so I don't have too much of the practical sort of side of things. However, I can definitely fill you in on all the details, and then also lots of different stories from all the different customers that I've dealt with along the years. So
yeah. Cool. It's cool to have that balance, because there's a lot of people. Not to throw you under the bus here, Maxwell, but I imagine Maxwell's at the opposite end of the scale, used a lot of the products practically, understands what you like and don't like, but if Stu's starts talking specs and things, maybe some of that starts to not register with you.
Basic knowledge of what the specs are and what they do, but for me, it's the image in the scope. The specs don't really matter too much.
Yeah, so that's perfect. The complement, you got to understand the reason why and why the specs matter and what they do out practically. But then to go and use it practically, there might be some things that get lost in the breeze and whatever. Trent, what about yourself, mate? What's your role? You obviously work for HikMicro.
HikMicro, yeah. So I'm the business development manager for HikMicro, Queensland, obviously South Australia, WA.
Yep.
I've been with Hik for probably a bit over 12 months now, 12, 14 months.
Yep.
Been a hunter all my life since I was a kid.
Yep.
Growing up on rural property out in New South Wales. And used obviously all our thermal range extensively over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah.
A lot of different situations. So have a pretty good understanding of how it's used practically in the field,
yeah.
And a good understanding of the specs too, obviously.
Yeah, you'd have to if you're selling them.
That's right, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Had you used any of the competition or any thermal products before you started working for Hik?
I'd looked over a few monoculars in the field, but not to the extent I've used obviously our devices in the last 12 or 14 months.
Yeah.
Specs-wise, sometimes you can really work out what specs you want after using the device, and then working out how that relates to what specs you've got in your device rather than the other way around. It's important to try to get your specs right when you're looking for a device, but it's funny how after using it in the field and seeing what your expectations are or what you need out of something, then you can relate that back to actually what you're using.
Yeah.
It's sort of a little bit in reverse, and unfortunately we don't get enough time in the field to use them before we purchase them. So that's where things like we're doing over this weekend and thermal nights and training is important part of the journey, I guess, when you're purchasing a product to try to get as much practical experience.
Because it's a big outlay financially, isn't it, to step into the game. And so I think there's a lot of people that hold off for a very long time. They know they want some form of thermal. They hold off for ages because they're so unsure of what it is they should be buying.
You don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah. That's right.
You don't want to get it wrong, and it's tough without using it for a few. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Just getting out in the field and using it for 4 or 5 hours one night, you really get a feel for what you're after.
Yeah, that's why speaking to guys like yourselves is really important for the customer, and like you, Maxwell, you'd be a really good trusted source of knowledge now for a lot of people to go to. I imagine your inbox is always blowing up with people going, "What should I buy? What should I get?" So tell us a little about your journey into thermal and what you do for work and how you use them and implement them for work now.
Yeah, no worries. So my journey started probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, when I sort of first met Rusty and was getting into the shooting thing, and sort of found out about night vision and thermal, and bought my first night vision scope, a Pulsar Digi sight back in the day. It still sits on one of my air rifles. It doesn't get used very much, but And then, progressing from there, realising, okay, I've got this great night vision scope, but I can't find anything in the field because I'm constantly trying to scan with night vision and realising, okay, I need a thermal monocular to pair with this.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's a mix of both night vision and thermal.
Yeah.
I do a lot of urban shooting and I prefer to tend to use night vision in urban settings because I get a lot better sight picture. I don't have any interruption of thermal hotspots on lights or anything like that.
So when you say urban environments, you're talking like pigeon
work, feral cats. So shooting mostly rubbish dumps and warehousing areas.
Yep.
And working those sort of areas, I tend to prefer the night vision so I can get an actual picture of what I'm looking at. I can read details of everything.
It's cool to see that night vision still has like a really strong place because I feel like the thermal thing is really overshadowing it a little bit at the moment. Like, you know, the topic is thermal. You talk to people, I want to get a thermal or let's use thermal and night vision's sort of falling out the wayside. But as that tech in the night vision is getting better and better as well, it should still be considered for like certain use case.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a really, really interesting one. So we might jump into the questions here that Josh has got ready for us and start working through them. What was life like before thermal versus after thermal? So how much do you think it's changed how people go about their, spotlighting, even their day hunting as well? I think it's an interesting one. I'd like to understand is how well I could implement it into,
finding game
deer stalking and things during the day as well. So have you seen a really big change in how people go out and shoot and hunt now?
For me, it's changed the whole game.
Yeah.
It's really brought the night to life.
Yeah.
What you can see at night time now, detection-wise, is there was nothing close to it previously.
Well, we used to just sit a spotlight out the car, didn't we? Yeah.
So you see more.
Yeah.
In simple terms, you see more, you get more.
Yeah.
You've got such a wider field of view as opposed to say a spotlight.
Yep.
And you got that obviously the heat return from the animal, so detection is out of this world. And because you're probably seeing them earlier, you're getting more of an opportunity to work out your approach. Mm-hmm. You're getting more of an opportunity to work out how you're going to approach your target. Whereas before, maybe you're getting onto them a bit late and they were onto you before you saw them. So absolute game changer in nighttime hunting.
Yeah. I would say, like the small amount of thermal I've done with some very budget-minded thermal, would you say it brings like an element of calm to it? Because there was an element of like spotlighting that I know was quite, because game gets a light on it, then it starts to run and move and things like that. If you've got new shooters, like, you might be introducing your children to going out hunting, there's so much going on. You're on the back of the ute potentially, or in the ute and you're swinging a light around, someone's yelling, your dad's in the thing driving the ute, and there's just so much going on. There's like an element of chaos. And I don't know about you guys, I never want my hunting to feel like chaos. It needs to feel controlled and calm, and so you can make collected decisions on what you're, when you're going to squeeze the trigger. And then having the kids out with some thermal the other day, I feel like there's just this ability to be able to just sit, stay stationary, or stand, or whatever you're doing with your tripod, and sort of, it just takes that pressure off, like that immediacy to have to, make stuff happen.
I think the big thing is with spotlighting, it's rushed. You're out, you're driving, you've got the spotlight on. The second you see something, you've got limited time to shoot it. But as Trent was saying, with the thermal, your detection is so much further that you can creep up onto that animal, or you can detect that it's there. It sort of slows everything down but speeds everything up at the same time.
Yeah, it speeds up the opportunity, but it slows down
It gives you so much more time.
Yeah.
It's like a good footballer has a lot of time to make decisions.
Yeah. Because they're seeing things earlier.
Yeah, they're seeing it earlier.
Yep.
You just get more time to plan. They're not seeing you. They're not reacting to you. It just buys you so much more time in the field.
There's many more chances that you can go for. I mean, even with the whole night vision side of things, as soon as you go to just being completely incognito, it just gives you the chance to either whistle things in or actually take the time to
make a decision and approach.
It's much calmer in that sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it obviously has had a really big impact, and there's no doubt about it. Do you find there's still people that are traditionalists that still love swinging the light around for spotlighting? And
I think there's definitely applications for a spotlight still.
Yeah.
Property dependent and sort of work dependent. I know there's legalities around kangaroo harvesting and stuff to where I think some states you still have to harvest under a white light.
Yeah.
You can have a thermal on top for detection, but to take your shot you still have to take it under white light.
Yeah.
So applications like that for spotlight still exist.
So then you're merging the two, right?
Merging the
That's
two.
still a really good way of doing it.
One of the properties I hunt on is, one of the paddocks is named Boulder for a reason. There's a lot of rocks out there.
Yeah.
During summer, detection of foxes and stuff sitting in those rocks is nearly impossible.
Yeah, wow.
Because those rocks are sitting at 30, 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So you scan up in there and your heat range is sort of merging right with a fox's body temperature.
Wow.
So they're hard to see. So a lot of the time I'll spotlight and thermal. I'll look for eye shine and then shut that off and switch out to the thermal and night vision after I've found the animal.
Yeah. So you're actually using the spotlight for the eye shine first. So you're actually, rather than thermal first, and then you're using the thermal to close the distance on the animal.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. I'd always thought of it the other way around, like what Trent was speaking about.
90% of the time it would be, but this one property in certain sections, you can't get onto them with a thermal easily.
Yeah.
Unless they're moving between the giant piles of rocks and bits and pieces. But
Yeah, cool. All right. Next question, which has sort of been answered, was what was the first unit you brought? So you obviously had the Pulsar night vision. I remember that unit. It was huge.
Yeah, it was a monster.
So heavy. I feel like it was heavier than the gun underneath it, wasn't it? It was massive.
Yeah, it's a big, bulky unit. But they've come a long way now.
And Trent, what about yourself?
Mine was one of our Condor CQ35, so 35mm lens with a rangefinder, which is one of our better selling binoculars. But that was my unit, which...
You've still got it, or you've sort of moved up through the range now?
Moved on to the second generation.
Yeah,
which is still one of my favourite units.
Yeah, cool. Yep. And yourself, Stu?
I haven't actually bought one.
You haven't bought one yet?
I've got the unique experience that I just get to try all of them all the time where I work. So, a bit spoilt for choice. And, there's always new technology coming out that I get to take out prior to them, releasing, having a look at all these different things. So I've got quite a wide range of experience across the board having a look through all these. So
yeah, cool. Yeah. Most creative way you've seen anyone use a thermal?
Well, you see, we sell, obviously to sell to a lot of farmers. And they sometimes they're steered towards the binos because they're so multi-purpose, daytime, nighttime, day-night vision, thermal channels. But they all use them to check their water levels on their tanks, so it'll pick up the temperature difference.
Oh, serious? Wow.
Sometimes the guys will run them over their big haystacks, like to check for combustion, for heat, because hay can combust. So there's been a few guys that have picked up problems, by doing that.
Pre-existing, yeah.
And also there's a lot of thermal users in the industrial industry for.
Yeah, definitely.
So for agriculture, it can be so much more than just the pest control and the hunting side.
Multi-purpose use.
Can really be.
So I use mine to check my water levels on my tank at home. So.
I didn't even know it was a thing. So you're talking like day or night, you look at a water tank.
Yeah, because
the water
and the air temperature difference.
What's darker, what's lighter? So the water's darker because it's colder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So where they used to go and either look in them or have a measurement of the tank, they can just now physically, not even if they had to go through a gate previously, they can just pull up, check the tank.
And that's more so like they're not needing an exact measurement. They just need to know if there's a problem and there's a bore open somewhere or a float's stuck and then the tank's suddenly fully empty or whatever, they can go, oh, there's no water in there.
Just another go out there every day and check the tank or whatever. Really, when you're out thermal at night, roll past, all right, tank's got water in it, keep rolling.
This might be good for my dad to hear. I think he might get my mum over the line now, actually, on some gear. So
perfect.
He might just add a few more zeros on the backside and get himself something he wants for the farm. What are some practical tips for getting the most out of your thermals?
I think we just covered that, really.
The only thing I'd add is get to know your menu really good.
Yep.
And work out what features that your device has got, and how to maximise, get the maximum out of that device by getting your settings right.
Yep.
Now, things like Zoom Pro and whether you want the warm or cold palette, and different palettes as well.
Yeah.
At night time, the black hot and the white hot can be quite harsh on your eyes. And if you're going out for a long time using a device, you might want to look at some of the different palettes, the yellow. The green monochrome.
Different environments as well with your colour palettes. I find if I'm working in trees and a heavily wooded area, the black hot and white hot tend to bounce off the trees because the trees hold a lot of heat. So it makes it difficult. Swapping to the sepia or the violet tones is a lot nicer in heavily wooded areas. But for maximum protection, it's black hot.
Yeah, I think get to know your menu really well.
Really well.
Get your device out in the field and just go through the different options and work out what they do and what suits your application.
Yeah, something that a lot of people don't think about as well is just paying attention to the types of loads that you're using, because a lot of these thermals will be able to run the ballistics calculators with their laser rangefinders. It's only going to be as accurate as the data you feed it. So
100%.
pay attention to what you're actually putting in there, get familiar with the data, and then it's going to be way more accurate and way more successful while you're out there.
Yep.
That's a really, really good point. What about setting up, like, let's talk about like your ecosystem of what you've got when you go out in the field, because I feel like this is like there's a bit of a gap here. We're all aware that when we go out with a thermal or a night vision, it's known distance, because obviously we have rangefinders in these units. It's also it's supported, right? It's not offhand snap shooting. So we're either on the bonnet of a car or on the car door with a sandbag like we use, or we're on a tripod.
Yep.
I feel like there's a bit of a gap there where people that have never been exposed to it, they've got a hunting rifle, they stick a thermal on it, and they're used to just walking around in the bush and then, pinning up against a tree. So they're out there in the dark scanning with their gun, like you sort of used to when you first started. Their arms are getting tight and sore, plus they're not able to take a stable shot, and they've got game that's just sitting there stationary where they could take a really calm, rested, precise shot. So do you think people need to look at the whole package? Like, I've sort of indicated to my dad, and he started playing with my tripod now with a tack table on the top and a sandbag on it. And initially he was very hesitant to use it because it was just extra gear that he didn't want. I'm talking one night in, he's now sitting there going, plinking rabbits with a 22 and then looking at me going, 143 metres. So like he's starting to take the time to set up a stable shot and shoot off a platform.
I think tripod, if you're going to be on foot, is a necessity, or some form of shooting stick.
Yeah.
That was after buying my night vision, exactly the same thing. I was using fence posts. Week one of having night vision, I went and bought a tripod.
Yep.
I was like, it's a necessity.
Yep.
I won't leave the house without one.
Yep. And so to do a tripod, you either have to have a way to clip your gun into it. So you've got bog pods that'll hold the gun, or you can have Arca rail, like how we all set our rifles up now, where you clip in, or you can run some sort of sandbag on there and sort of have an extra piece of gear. But it's a lot of gear to manage. So I think people need to start to familiarise themselves and practice right with that gear, because there's so many pieces of the pie. What about you, Trent? Do you do?
I think, I do. I do
carry
quite
a
a bit
tripod?
with tripod, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the advantage of thermal, is that because you're picking them up earlier, at a longer distance, you got more time to plan it, get the drift right, the wind right, so you can walk in on things with your tripod. It's not so rushed, like you were saying before. There's more opportunity for more of a stealthy approach, I think, with thermal, and it allows you probably, I don't know, I see a lot more shooting off tripods with the introduction of thermals.
Yeah. What was the learning curve like for you to use a tripod and things like that? Because there is a bit of a knack to it, and getting to learn how to run your tripod correctly.
I picked it up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because I'd hunted all my life.
Yeah.
And I'd shot off rests of trees and bonnets of cars.
So forming a practical position.
It was just another rest that was obviously a lot more convenient.
Yeah.
I think another thing to take into account is a lot of people end up looking at these things and then just going straight for like a thermal scope to start off with, because they think, I need this to actually take the shot in the first place, right? So that's just their starting point. And sometimes it can be more convenient just to start off with a thermal monocular. You get used to the type of system, you get used to the stealthy approach.
Yeah.
And then you can use it with the systems you already have in place and still be more stealthy, and then go into that element of actually having something on your rifle at a later date. So,
I've seen a lot of guys in the US that Coyote call will do that. Like they'll just run a thermal monocular and they've got a really good gun mounted, weapon mounted white light, and they run their day scope. And they'll call and call and call, and then they'll flick the light on and the Coyote stops and whack. So they shoot it just like spotlighting. They keep their ecosystem all together with their light mounted on their gun, but then they just have a thermal handheld binocular. It seems to be really common.
It's universal. I mean, you get a thermal monocular, you can use it on any system. It'll work perfectly.
Yep. We've got a couple pre-done scenarios here of sort of different instances and what you would pick for those applications, which I think is an interesting one. So open farmland, fox control at 200-ish metres, give or take. What's the pick and why? So we're talking open paddocks. That's probably pretty common here in South Australia. Maybe not so much here in the hills, but down my way. paddocks can be quite big and open in the southeast. What would you be buying and putting in the kit for that sort of application?
You probably want something with a bit of a higher base mag. So you don't probably something 3.5 plus. Probably looking at the 640 sensors to really get that detail once you start zooming in a little bit on it as well. If you're going to be taking longer shots, sort of 250 plus on foxes, which can be common on that flat ground. They don't like sort of covering a lot of ground in the open sometimes. So these guys would have the specs or the actual model.
Yeah, I'd agree with Max. At that sort of range, you probably want to looking at 640 and beyond in terms of your thermal sensor, a higher base mag, and also, you know, if you're doing a sort of crossing over of twilight going into night, maybe even a day-night scope. You know, that Alpex Pro perhaps. But then if you're primarily shooting all night, maybe you're looking at, you know, even moving into the 1280 sensor into our SX60 LS, something like that. But
keep in mind that if you go for the night vision side of things, it's going to be really hard to go from something like a thermal monocular to a night vision scope in the same instance. And then if you got very shrubby sort of land that you're working with, then things can disappear in behind the shrubs. Whereas if you're running a thermal scope, you're never really it's going to be less likely for you to lose track of what you're actually looking at. So
so you're saying it's a hard transition to go from a thermal binocular over to a night vision in the field in the
It takes a lot of practice to practically use them together.
And point your stuff in the right direction.
It's very much like PRS. It's target acquisition. You need to be able to scan with your binocular. There's a fox over there. Not grab your gun here and start scanning, but move your gun, put it down, scan, gun in the right spot, and go down behind it, and make sure that you're lined up with your binocular and your night vision in the same direction. So you're not scanning for it. You know it's going to be right there.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that because I think I was potentially looking at putting an Alpex Pro or two across a few of my systems because I'm sort of seeing the opening there for it to replace some day optic glass and do some of the long range stuff. I mean, I've got a weapons mounted rangefinder on top of my day optic, so I lays, range, engage, but to have that in the one system was really exciting. But I hadn't thought, and I thought we'd end up with some sort of thermal monocular for scanning and detection. But you're so right, I hadn't thought about that tricky transition of target acquisition to go between the two could be slightly clunky. And you'd be a lot quicker to pick the game back up, right, if you had thermal on the gun as well as your scanner. Yeah, okay. Yep.
It's not impossible.
No.
But
and the more you practice it,
the more the practice it, the better you are at it. But
And pests like to use coverage a lot, so if they're going in amongst tall grass, then thermal can be a much better way of picking that up.
Yeah. Something I've seen with the budget thermal I've played with, was particularly with small game rabbits. We're missing a lot of shots that are hitting foliage because I can't actually tell that the rabbit is behind foliage. Like I'm seeing the whole outline of the rabbit and then little 22 bullets just getting sucked up by the shrubs. The more do I need to just spend more money and get a better unit, or is there certain sensors and different things that I need to pay attention to that would give me more detail of the shrub in front of the rabbit?
It'd be a temperature difference thing. So
a little bit of that, and then a lot of higher base mag as well. Because I mean, the closer image you got at that for the base magnification, the clearer the overall image, the less you're straining the unit to actually kind of magnify in.
Yeah.
And then, most of these units these days have got such a low NETD, which is that kind of temperature differentiating factor, that they've got quite good capabilities these days. But combo that with a solid sensor, I mean, you wouldn't even need to go to 640 in most scenarios, but if you went to 640, it would constantly just help in actually making out the difference between the target and the background and foreground.
Yeah. Cool. Thick scrub, pig hunting, close range, under 50 metres.
At the moment, I'm just going to have to say, like our new Neos range,
which is a tube style.
Yeah, our new tube style scopes.
Yep.
That were just launched a few weeks ago. The NH25L, which retails for 1,999.
Yeah.
That would be the go-to for me at that range.
Yeah.
Bang for your buck. It's red hot at that.
And being a traditional style tube scope, it can be familiar for people to mount and play with and whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the clarity you're going to get at that sort of range, you don't need to see.
How do you reckon the HikTac would go? That little
good.
red dot.
Yeah, good.
We were talking about that yesterday,
Yeah.
putting the hic tac on a shotgun and sort of sneaking into those close ranges for.
So a
hics.
HikTac is, I'm not familiar with the product, it's like a red dot for thermal, is that right?
Similar, yeah.
Similar.
Yeah.
So it's a real low base
That's
mag?
right.
Is it
Yeah.
a true 1X or has it still got some sort of...
Good question.
This is a brand new
We'll
optic.
come back to you.
I've had it for 2 days.
So it's basically a red dot sort of shaped like a lot bigger than an actual red dot, and it's like a little 2-inch by 2-inch
Yeah,
screen,
yeah, that's right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
On it. So yeah, put it on a shotgun and sneak right up
Or
into
like
them.
a pump 308.
Yeah, pump
Yeah.
308,
Yeah.
some sort of.
No eye
yeah.
relief. You could just put it down as far as you need.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
And if the bill is scrub pigs under 50
Yeah.
metres
You,
like
you
that.
definitely wouldn't be pushing it more than 50. I was playing around with it a bit yesterday out in the car park, but yeah, 50 would be its limitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely good for that, I guess, close quarters type
Yeah,
stuff where you might have something running between
Kick scrub,
vegetation.
yeah.
No, that's really cool. I'm going to have to check that product out. Walking/stalking on foot versus sitting still or spotlighting from a vehicle. Is there any considerations you make that you would change the unit you're using? For one, I guess weight would come into consideration then, right?
If we're talking a monocular here, shooting from a vehicle, I've found like having a real low base mag in a vehicle makes it a lot easier, wider field of view, and you don't have as much because you're moving around a lot. That wider field of view really sort of stops the shakiness.
Yeah.
And the like it's hard if you've got 3.5 times and you're moving like this, you're moving a lot of that image as you're bashing through a paddock.
Yeah.
Whereas a 1X or a 2X sort of you get a lot more field of view and it's a bit more forgiving.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the biggest consideration, particularly for roof mounting. A lot of people make the mistake of getting one of our, say, Condor in a 50mm lens.
Yeah.
And the field of view is just too long, too narrow, too far out.
Great if you walk and stalk. And
Exactly, on big open country, and you might want to run it across a few paddocks at once. But yeah, the field of view is just too narrow, and that's it's more common for people to buy a 50 and not be happy with it and wish they had bought the one underneath at the 35mm lens.
Yeah.
That's the really good all rounder in the 640 sensor range. And then if you talk different sensors, the 384 sensor, for example, then the Lynx is quite good at the 25mm lens. But yeah, that's a real important consideration on the roof mounting is your field of view.
Field of view. So to get more, sorry to cut you off, Maxwell, to get more field of view, you need a smaller...
Generally, the smaller the lens size, the wider field of view.
Is what it equates to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly where I was going with that. A lot of people sort of equate it to like, oh, I want a 56mm day optic because I'm going to take more light in at night when I turn my spotlight on, where it's sort of opposite with the thermals.
Okay. Yeah.
It does become even more important in the 384 sensor range. If you go lower sensor size, then that objective lens size does make a big difference.
So if you're going more budget minded, you need to be
you
really
need
conscious
to be really
of it.
mindful, because it will have, since it's not as large a sensor as say a 640, it will on average have a smaller field of view anyways in those 384 sensor sizes. So you're really shopping very particular in your objective lens size for your use case.
Yep. Cool. Next one, a beginner on a budget wanting one all-round unit for rabbits and foxes.
Talking scopes or monoculars?
It doesn't actually say. I feel like we need to maybe specify that up a little bit there.
I think we cover both.
Yeah.
I think, same as Trent said before, the Neos range in the HikMicros are next level. I've got a 35L. We've shot foxes out to 350 plus with it.
What rifle do you have that on? Or does it go across multiple?
No, it's running on a 6 Creedmoor.
Yep.
A spicy 6 Creedmoor shooting 80 grain BTs.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we talk one unit, people quite often toss up whether I'm going to get a scope or a monocular.
Yeah.
For me, it's nice shooting through a scope. It's good fun. You know, you get the recoil activation video. It all looks cool. But the monocular is more important. The big advantage in thermal is detection. Mm-hmm. Like you're seeing a lot more. It gives you the ability to get more. Mm-hmm. How you get it, like that's the last 10%.
Yeah.
It's finding it, getting to it, and the monocular allows you to do that. So for me, it's more important to get the monocular right, and I really like our 384 mid-range monoculars, like our Lynx series, say the LH19, which is 19mm lens, and the LH25 25mm lens.
Yeah.
Retailing around for 1,800, 2,100, cheaper on specials.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good budget, like good value unit.
Yeah.
And I'd pair that with the Neos in the same price range, the NH25 at $19.99, $2,000, or the NH35L just gets you out a little bit further.
So you would say, like, you're going 2 units,
Yep.
you're in it for 4 or 5
4 or 5
grand,
grand.
versus having 1, 6, 7 grand scope,
Yep.
thermal scope on the gun,
Yep.
is going to get you a lot more game,
Yep.
and it's going to be a lot more practical to
Yep.
use in the field.
Yeah, you've got the whole, you got the whole, all the
Ecosystem.
bases covered.
Yeah.
If you're only shooting 200 meters and in, both of those optics are going to be perfect.
It's
for
really
that.
only once we start to
Yeah,
wanna try and
once you
push
start
it.
really trying to stretch out, but even then, it's like you're still going to be identifying that there's something in the paddock at 500 meters and be like, okay, there's something out there. I don't know if it's a fox, a rabbit,
Yeah.
or what it is, but you can always walk out there.
Yeah. So let's
The
say
only exception is, I guess if you've got a 200, 300, 500 acre property, and you know there's 2 corners that you see things, then you probably get away with buying a scope,
Yep.
and you're only scanning, you're only doing your own property most of the time.
so you know the area. So
You know
well.
they're going to be here or there, or they're not going to be there.
Yep.
Then you could get away with just a scope.
Yep, with
But if
clicks
you're out
and
actively hunting new ground all the time,
Yep.
big country, I think it's more important to get the monocular.
Yeah, cool. No, that sort of lines up with what I was thinking would be your answer. Following on from that, Trent, if you, let's say you had 5 grand and you were going to get 2, you're going to get some sort of thermal or night vision on the gun, and you're going to get a thermal monocular for scanning. Which unit of those are you better off having more money in, if that makes sense? So are we splitting it in the middle and going, we're spending 2.5 here and 2.5 there? Or are we going, let's spend 3 for what we can get here and then just get something more budget on the scope? What do you think is a more important way to skin
Good
it?
question. For me, it comes down to, I actually don't want to see something better in one of my units.
Yeah.
I'm going to wish I had bought the same in that unit as well.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
you can argue that detection's more important. You've closed the ground when you're shooting, so you can go back in, you can go back from a 640 to a 384.
Because you're in.
Because you close the gap, you're shooting. You might have a high base mag, which makes it look nicer. I personally would like to just use the same sensor across the board.
Yeah.
Because I just know that every time I look through the one that's a bit better, I'd wish I'd bought that.
Yeah.
That's just how
Oh, it's a great answer, because
Yeah.
if people have never played with it, they wouldn't know. Like,
And I say that to some people, they go, I only need I need the monocular, the higher resolution.
Yeah.
And then the scope a bit less because I'm closed ground, higher base mag, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
And I run with that, and I said, okay, but I quite often say to people, but I know if it was me and I'm looking through that, I would want them to be the same.
Yeah.
And quite often people, the sort of penny will drop and they'll go, you're right.
yeah.
And they'll go down that path.
It's funny. See, I would have gone the opposite way. I would have gone like cheaper on the monocular, mounted on the roof, or however, for scanning, basic detection. There's a heat signal out there. We don't know what it is, and then the better unit on the gun, because then your identification when it's time to take the critical choice of pulling the trigger, your identification on what it is. So that's actually how I was leaning. But now
I
that you've
think you
said
can
it,
go both ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
The only thing is with a high resolution monocular is your ID's out so much further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
That's the way I would have looked at it. If I wasn't able to just split it and go, I would want a better monocular,
Yeah.
so I can look out into 500 meters. But okay, there's a fox out there.
Yeah.
I know I need to go in quiet. Or there's a couple of rabbits out there. I can just
Yeah.
bust up there in the
Yes.
ute and shoot them.
This is perfect, because I think a lot of people are having these same questions and thoughts that I'm having, and you're actually changing my mind on how, I was convinced that Dad and I were going to set up with a more budget-minded mount on the car with the spotlight, and that we were going to put something better on the rifle. And now that I'm talking to you guys, I'm like, that makes a lot more sense to skin it even.
So you're detecting and identifying out at a K and 500 or 600 metres that you're shooting at 150.
Yeah.
Or, so it's you can argue either way.
Yeah.
But personally, that ID and the detection out further is more important for me.
Yeah.
Well, that $5,000 mark that you're working in, that's a pretty good area, because you can get something, and I would consider something with a laser rangefinder on both sides quite an important thing.
Yep.
If you can manage to, which you should be able to in that kind of $5,000 mark, you can get something on a 384 sensor with a laser rangefinder on both, and you'd be spending around the $2,000 mark for a laser rangefinder on a monocular.
Yeah.
And then you can spend that bit more in the scope if you needed to get a slightly higher lens size for a bit more base mag.
Yeah.
So that you've got the same sensor, but a little bit more identification in the scope.
Yeah.
That'd be another good way to go. But yeah, laser rangefinder is an important thing to consider while you're making your decision there.
Yeah, I think the laser rangefinder thing is also a bit of a foreign subject for some people. If they haven't long range or extended range, known distance, target shot or hunted during the day, it's so foreign because they've never used a laser rangefinder. I mean, I personally will never hunt ever again without carrying a rangefinder. I just don't know how we ever used to do it because it's always a guess, right? And I hate guessing. It's kind of like I want to know where on the game I'm sinking that bullet. So if I've used it during the day, it's an easier concept to get your head around at night. There's a lot of people that, though, they've never carried a rangefinder in the bush. They've never known, and now they're getting into thermal and they're going, ballistics calculator, rangefinder, what is all this? So that's
I think the rangefinder's become really important with the thermal as well because it's getting better, but there's not much depth perception. Because you're looking at a flat image on a screen, you're not sort of seeing it through your own eyes in the day. You look down, you go, okay, I'm looking at a screen and that looks like it's 50 metres away, but it might be 150 metres away.
Yeah.
Especially once you start saying, okay, I've got a pretty high base mag on my scope, your brain doesn't really consider that when you look at the image. So having that rangefinder be go, okay, it's 89 metres away, not 50 metres away. I need to close that gap a little bit more, or press the button that gives you your ballistics and be like, okay, I just need to hold this much above it.
Yeah. That kind of plays into weight a little bit as well, because if you're pretty sick and tired of pulling up your rifle all the time, to actually have a look at something and then take a shot at it, and you're using the laser rangefinder on the scope and then you don't have any reference before you're actually pulling up the rifle, it's good to have it on the binocular, so you're always like, all right, no worries, there's no point in me going for that at the moment. I'm just going to try and close the distance and then go for the rest of it with the scope after that. So it's always good to have that information beforehand as well.
Before approaching.
Sure.
Trent, do you see people using the laser rangefinder but they haven't gone down the path of setting up a ballistic profile? So they just want to know the distance. They can't be bothered with setting up the drops and things like that?
Yep, absolutely, all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of people, particularly pigs, they'll be shooting them at quite close distance. So the ballistic calculator doesn't necessarily need to be set up for them. All the time. It's I would say only a small percentage of people probably set the ballistic calculators up. From what I've seen.
I think it's a pretty foreign concept for people to grasp how effective it can actually be. And how much they trust it as well, because some people might set it up and then they don't set it up correctly. They have the wrong. They just take the box speed off their ammo and be like, oh, why am I not hitting anything? This is junk. Whereas you need to get a chronograph and you need to spend a bit of time
or verify at range and figure out what
your speed is. And it's like you've sort of got to. When you come from a long range shooting background, it's very easy to plug that all in. But if you're just a hunter and you're just used to going out and being like, okay, that's about 150 metres. I can shoot that, not a problem.
Accurate data, accurate results. Inaccurate data, you can have a pretty rough time when you're actually getting set up. It can throw you off a wee bit. So
and then conditions
it's a great feature,
as well.
But I don't know. I think there's only a small portion of people using it. It probably needs to be
discussed more and explained more.
And used more. But fantastic feature. But I'd say a small portion of guys out there are probably using it.
And I'm constantly setting it up for other people just to try and get them up and running.
And that's another reason why they're probably not using it, because they're not comfortable setting it up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It is a very foreign concept.
The best way, go play with it on small caliber stuff on rabbits, because the difference between shooting a rabbit with a subsonic 22 at 100 metres, we've shot them out to 150, 160, down to 20, is a massive amount of drop. So having to know that range, and like you see how quick and effective it is to be able to range the little bunny, have the new crosshair come up, down low, hold point. Like it's an awesome system, like versus having a rangefinder in your hand and then looking at your data board, then dialing your scope, and then you get back on the gun, you're like, everything's moved, like it's changed. Having it all there, and for teaching as well, like I found with the kids, we were able to ID the rabbits, and then I was saying, all right, you're on him, and then I was actually pressing the range finding button for him, and they were going, yep, I'm on it. I'd range it, and then they knew where the new crosshair was. We had a quick 5-minute conversation before we went out that, look, there's going to be a new green dot pop up down the scale, and like, cool, no worries. And we were just effectively able to, like I said, dance between 120 metres and shoot rabbits across with children that have had a little exposure to really using these complicated units, but with the right inputs and set up, once
it's set up, that's it. It stays like that unless you change your ammo or do something else.
Yeah.
It's good to go. And yeah, it's great on the 22s. When I first got the Neos, I took it out onto one of my rabbit properties and I had a fox pop up at 200 metres.
Yeah.
And I was able to head shoot it.
I know. Isn't that
200 metres with a 22?
And you remember what 200 metres was like under a spotlight? There was a big guess at, was it 200, was it 300, or was it 150? Those differences of 50 metres, like in bullet drop, in your 223 is massive. It's missing the fox, under the fox, over the fox, in the fox. And I would argue that unless you've done a lot of spotlighting, knowing that the fox was at 200 versus 250 or 150 is very, very hard to do.
We used to... we'd gone out and worked out sort of our ranges with what our spotlight looked like. Back in the day.
On the edge of the light.
On the edge of the light is 200 metres.
Yep. And then you go to a mate's place with a different light.
Yeah, you pull up a different spotlight. Someone's like, oh, check out this new whiz-bang spotlight, and suddenly 200 metres is 400 metres, and you're like, why am I not hitting anything?
Yeah. And now we have the ability to press a button in there and get some data back and and make a I think it's
improved the effectiveness of
the ethical side of it
and
too.
The ethical side,
it's a must-have for me. I want a rangefinder on any device I'm using.
This next one, I reckon we can spend a bit of time on this. So, because this debate happens a lot, the clip-on debate. Being able to, add thermal or night vision to your current day setup. Why you would do it, where you would see it, where you would recommend it, and where you would not recommend it.
I think for a lot of guys who are heavily invested in their gear already, their rifles are set up, dialed in for shooting long range shooting. It makes a bit of sense to use it. They've got their work form. They know what they're doing with their data. They've got everything sorted. They can.
So we're talking like a long range build that we're seeing. Night Force attacker set up in a chassis. They're already shooting 1,000 metres. Maybe they've got all their data. And then
you've got money invested in your scopes. You've got really good glass. But the only problem with that is most of those attackers and stuff like that start at 5.5. And that's too much for a clip-on. We are seeing them getting better now to where you can use those higher base mags and stuff. I've never really been a big fan of clip-on. I'd rather I know I've got good rings on all my scopes. I can undo that scope, take it off, put the thermal on, take that back on, put it back on the exact same spot and know that it's going to be zero again. Run good rings and it's not so much an issue.
So your average hunter who's just got a nice, it's a second focal plane scope, it's a Zeiss, it's a Carlos or whatever, they love their glass, it's on a 22 250. That bloke there, it's not going to make any sense for him because he's not set up for dialing and engaging at longer ranges. It's not really going to make, are you saying like he'd be better off to build a designated night gun or just swap a night optic on and just pull his day optic off?
Also depends on how many rifles he's got. He's got a few different rifles set up for a few different reasons. Then you can just have one clip on and then a nice system behind it that you can swap it between them all at a moment's notice. So
I'd say that's really good in theory, and I think that's where I was at originally, and then having played with some clip-ons and things, the practical implication of that I'm finding clunkier than I thought it was going to be.
I was going to say, it's really good in theory, and a lot of guys do it because they only want to buy even one device or have one that's a monocular and
use it
and a scope. But and in theory, it's great, but just it's hard to find a system, a clip-on system that's really easy to return back to zero, especially at night. Personally, I prefer having dedicated rifles and maybe using quick detach mounts and swapping a day scope over to a thermal.
Because unless you've got like the military style of setting up a gun where it's in a chassis that has a pick rail out in front, and so you're clipping the night vision onto a pick rail and you're not actually sort of mounting it on the front ocular and whatever, like you're saying, that mounting system...
You've got to buy all new mounts for every gun. I find it to be a clunky system.
I agree.
I think you should have a dedicated night gun or good mount good quick release rings or solid rings that you know will return to zero well.
I suppose scopes these days as well. I mean, there was an element of it in the past where the adjustments for your standard thermal scope weren't as fine or anywhere near as fine as what you can get out of your standard scopes. So just chucking a clip on the end would allow you to maintain the accuracy that you wanted in the first place. They've come a long way now to make those much smaller increments to make sure that you're still maintaining a high level of accuracy. There's some people which they want to make sure that it's as accurate as they can possibly get it.
Yeah.
So
there are people, my father included, who genuinely think that they could set up you might be able to, but he thinks he could have a clip-on unit, detect with it, you know, then clip it onto the gun, engage whatever it was we've detected, and then unclip it again and go back to scanning. Like, he actually thinks that that's sort of like a practical ecosystem.
Would love to see that.
I know,
and like consistently.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and then it moves.
There's so much gear management going on too.
But
isn't
while
it?
you do that, it moves 100 metres. So you take it back off again?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And try and detect it again, or do you then start scanning with the rifle? Yeah.
For me, I've just gone down the Magnatech route, and it's a little bit different for me because I have to have the ability to be able to take the devices off and show people. So that's where the Magnatechs are really good for me because I can take a day scope off, put my thermal on, interchange them really easy, but I also have to have the ability to throw it in my bag and put it on a plane and bring it down and show someone. So I'm a little bit different in that respect, but
you could do the same thing that you're doing with the Magnatech with normal rings though as well. Like, once you get confident with how your scope's mounted with a normal set of rings, you got a torque wrench, it goes to the same tension and the same spot on the Picatinny rail every time, right?
The Magnatechs do make it fast.
Do they? I've never played with one.
They're pretty good.
We've got some downstairs, you can have a look when we're done.
We'll have to play with them later. It's definitely something I'm looking to upgrade to.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think there obviously still is a place for the clip-on stuff, but I'm seeing the practical side of a designated night gun makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It stays in the safe, set up like that way for that application.
Yeah, 100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, is there anything you feel like we haven't covered? We're sort of closing in on time now. Is there anything you feel like you really wished you'd wanted to say for people that are looking at this?
I just want to ask you, where are you at now after this conversation?
Yeah.
Where were you before we started, and where are you now on what you think you want to do?
Yeah. That's really good. I've definitely, your comments about needing an equally matched sensor for the scanner and stuff like that. I'm seeing that I probably needed to pay more attention to field of view on the scanner, being something that's pretty important. And yeah, I think I'd sort of started to move towards designated thermal setups rather than clip-ons, because I had a night vision clip-on unit that just really, I found it very clunky to the whole ecosystem. Yeah. The idea of being able to range my target with my laser rangefinder that's mounted to my day scope, read my data. Well, then here's the problem. Because I've got the scope turned down to base mag, telling the difference between 1, 2, 3, 4 mil in drop, I can't read the reticle on base mag.
Yep.
So it's all good that I've lased the Fox and it's said he's 360 meters and I need to hold whatever it was 1.3 mil. I actually can't look at the reticle clear enough because I've got it turned down to work with the clip-on.
Clip-on.
So you get out and you use it all and it starts to get tricky. So where am I at? Yeah, I think I just need to bite the bullet and go and get something
Scope
equally matched. A scope and monocular, I think, is the way. Yep. I'd still be keen to try the Alpex though and have a play with that day-night technology.
I think that open country that you're in, it'll work perfectly as well because you still do a bit of daytime deer stalking and
correct.
stuff.
Yeah.
And like you quite happily take decent shots.
So do you think if I had like a thermal on the gun, I'd use it at night only and then day optic during the day? Whereas do you think the Alpex Pro, I would replace the day optic altogether and you do my daytime deer stalking and long range deer shooting?
I think you would do
with the Alpex.
With the Alpex, I don't think you'd bother swapping it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'd almost take longer shots with an Alpex.
Yeah.
Like if you were just a general hunter, not yourself as a experienced long range shooter.
Yeah.
Who's got that knowledge and base behind them. But yeah, you can definitely extend your range with an Alpex Pro in your daytime hunting.
Yeah.
With that ballistics data and the rangefinder.
Sensors are so good now. I mean, like in these newer units, you rarely find a situation where you're struggling for clarity. So
Yeah. Well, let's go have a play with some stuff and see what I'm going to be taking home. But thanks, guys, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Your wealth of knowledge up here, and yeah, I hope the viewers got something out of that, because I definitely did. So
Well, thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it, guys. Thank you.